All right, number one. Isabel grows potatoes in her garden. This year, she harvested 760 potatoes and saved 10% of them to plant next year. How many of the harvested potatoes did Isabel save to plant next year? All right. Well, she harvested 760 potatoes and she plans to save, she plants 10% of them for the next year. So what is 10% of 760? Well, 10% is 1/10. So if we do that times the 760, we do that over 1, we can cross out these zeros. We end up with 76 over 1. And so the correct answer is B for number 1. All right, number 2. What is the y-intercept of the graph shown? All right, well, let's look. So the y-intercept is when x equals 0, y equals what? So let's look at when x is 0, we go 1, 2, and therefore the y-intercept should be 2, and it would be drawn like this. So x is 0, and then y is 2. And so our correct answer is B for number 2. All right, number 3. What length in centimeters is equivalent to a length of 51 meters, with 1 meter equaling 100 centimeters? All right, so we know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And we have 51 meters, and we're trying to get that to equal how many centimeters? And so let's think about this. If this is 51 meters, we want meters on the bottom and centimeters on the top because we want the meters to cancel out. So we know 51 meters is equal to 100 centimeters. Let me draw that so it's a little clearer. 51 meters. And we want it meters on the bottom. We know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So if we follow this equation, the meters cancel out, and you get 51 times 100. So 51, and then add 2 zeros. So it should be 5,100 centimeters. And so answer choice C for number 3. All right, number 4. A bus is traveling at a constant speed along a straight portion of the road. The equation d equals 30t gives the distance d in feet from the road marker, that the bus will be in t seconds after passing the marker. How many feet from the marker will the bus be 2 seconds after passing the marker? So what is this telling us? This is the d is distance, and that equals 30, and then t equals the seconds after passing the marker. And it's telling us 2 seconds after passing the marker. So that means that t in this equation will equal 2, and they're looking for d. So knowing that, we can set up the equation as d equals 30, and then we can plug in for t 2. So therefore d equals 60. And that's why we have answer choice C as the correct answer for number 4. All right, number 5. Which expression is equivalent to 20w minus 4w plus 3w? So what this is testing us on is PEMDAS. PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and that is the order you go in when solving equations. So the first one is parentheses. So that means we must solve what is in the parentheses first. Oops, that's supposed to be a w. So therefore we do 4w plus 3w first. Then we 20w minus 7w, because 4 plus 3. And then now we just have this equation. And so redrawn, it's just 20w minus 7w. So what's 20 minus 7? Well, it's going to be 13w. And that's what we have left. So that is the correct answer for number 5. All right, number 6. If 6 plus x equals 9, what is the value of 18 plus 3x? So what do we need to do? First thing, we need to figure out what x is, and then plug it into this equation. And the first step we go about doing that is 6 plus x equals 9. Since this is a full equation, we can find out what x equals. So all we need to do is subtract 6 from both sides. Then we get x equals 3. And now knowing that x equals 3, we can plug it into this equation. And we get 18 plus 3 times 3. And that gives us 18 plus 9, and that equals 27. And that's why 27 is the correct answer for number 6. All right, number 7. The given equation relates to the variables x and y. For what value of x does the value of y reach its minimum? All right, so when y equals its minimum, x equals what? And that's what it's asking. So immediately, this is a graph. You have a graphing calculator. You should go and find the vertex of the parabola, because you know it's a parabola because it's x squared. It's probably going to look something like this. And then right here would be x equals what? And the y would be the minimum. And so that's the point you're looking for, and you can find that on your graphing calculator. And that's what I would recommend doing. There is a written equation that you can do, and unless the world's falling apart, your graphing calculator is broken, and your laptop doesn't work, I would not do this, but I'm going to show you anyways. So the equation is x equals negative b, 2a, and you can just plug in those numbers, and then you can find what y would equal at the vertex. And then you plug in that in, you get negative b, which would be negative 14, so you get a negative over a negative 14, creating a positive 14. And then you would do that over 2a, and a is 1, and so you do 14 over 2a, so 2 times 1 would be 2, and then you would get 7 as the correct answer for number 7. All right, number 8. Which expression is equivalent to 9x squared plus 5x? All right, so immediately I see they want us to simplify this. So how do we do that? Well, we take the equation 9x squared plus 5x, and we find what they have in common. So they both have x, and they have no multiples. So 9 can't go into 5, and 5 can't go into 9. So let's just take out the x first, and we get x with a 9x plus 5. And that cannot be further simplified. So we know that A is going to be the correct answer for number 8. All right, number 9. In triangle ABC, the measure of the angle B is 52 degrees, and the measure of angle C is 17 degrees. What is the measure of angle A? So when I see these, I always like to draw them out. So we have A, B, C. We have A, B, C. And maybe this is misleading because I don't think it's going to be a right triangle. And I'll show you why. So we have 17 degrees, we have 52 degrees. And so we know that in total, there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So therefore, if we have 17 and 52, the equation would look like this. Well, 52 degrees plus 17 degrees plus however many degrees, that's A, would equal 180 degrees. So all we need to do is subtract 17 and subtract 52 from each side. And if I plug that into my calculator, 180 minus 17 minus 52, we get that our question mark, which is A, equals 111 degrees, and therefore it is answer choice D. A is 111 degrees. All right, number 10. The graphs of the equations in the given system of equations intersect at one point xy in the xy plane. And we're looking for what is the value of y. So when these lines intersect, y is what? Well, immediately I know that I can just plug in 8 in this equation. So if I do that, I get y equals 8 squared, which is 64, plus 8. So I get y equals 72. And that's how you find it out. So we know that when we plug it in, it'll be 8, 72. So we know the answer is 72. But also, you can use your graphing calculator. And then on your graphing calculator, you can actually see where they intersect if you want to double check and then look at those coordinates. It will be those coordinates because you're plugging in x into that equation. And if you see the lines, they're going to look a little bit like this. I know the x equals 8 is going to look like this. It's just going to be straight up and down line, and the other is going to be a parabola. It's probably going to look something like that. And they're going to intersect at x equals 8 because that is actually the only value this line has. Because if you just have an x equals anything value, it's going to be a straight vertical line up and down. So it's going to be at that x point. And so that's how I know to plug it into this equation for x squared. But that's multiple ways of solving number 10. But overall, the answer is D, 72 for number 10. All right, number 11. The scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables x and y. A line of best fit is also shown. Which of the following equations best represents the line of best fit shown? All right, well, let's look. We know the y-intercept. So y equals what when x equals 0? We can tell that when x equals 0, y is going to equal 13 point, let's say 5, because looking at these answers, clearly they mean 5. And we know that it's going to be a positive value. And so knowing that it's a positive value, we know that it's not C or D because their intercept is above 0. I now look at the slope of the line. We know it's heading downwards, so it has a negative slope. So we know that whatever's multiplied by x, so this is going to be mx, m has to be negative. So therefore, we know A is out, and B is the only answer we have left. So B is the correct answer for number 11. All right, number 12. The function f is defined by f of x equals 8 and the square root of x. For what value of x does fx equal 48? So here's what we can do. So we know f of x, for what value of x does f of x equal 48? So when y is 48, what is x? Well, let's plug that in. Well, we know this is the equation. We can just set it equal to 48. 48 equals 8 times the square root of x. So all we need to do is divide 8 by both sides. And we can get 48 over 8. How can we subtract this? So we know that, what is 48 divided by 8? Oh, it's 6. Well, look at that. 6 equals square root of x. And so we just need to square both sides, because to get rid of a square root, you actually square the item. So you end up getting 36 equals x. And therefore, the answer choice that is correct for 12 is C. All right, number 13. A circle has center O and points R and S lie on the circle. In triangle ORS, the measure of ROS is 88 degrees. What is the measure of RSO in degrees? So let's draw this out. We have a circle, and we know this is point O. And we know that R and S, so let's call this S, let's call this R, lie on the circle. And so this would form this type of triangle. And we know that the measure of angle ROS is 88 degrees. And so where this 88 degrees goes, it goes in the letter that's in the center. So we know this is 88 degrees, this angle right here. And what do I know? Okay, so since it's a circle, the distance from O to R is the same exact distance as O to S, because this is the radius, and the radius doesn't change. So we actually know these sides are the same. And if I draw this a little clearer, let me just draw a triangle right here. We know this is O, S, and R. And we know that these lengths are the same because they're the radius. And the radius doesn't change. And we know that this is angle 88 degrees. And we're looking for this angle right here. And so what do we know about a triangle? The two sides are the same length. Well, we know it's an isosceles triangle. And the thing about isosceles triangles is that angle R and angle S are actually the same. So angle S is equal to angle R. And we know that there's 180 degrees in a triangle. So therefore, angle O plus angle S plus angle R equals 180 degrees, and S and R are the same. So let's call them X. So if we draw that out, we get 88 degrees plus X equals 180 degrees. And so that's how we come up to the equation 88 plus 2x equals 180 degrees. And sweet, we can just solve for x. So if we do that, we subtract 88 from both sides. And we get, and let me draw it over here because I got a little bit of space. 180 minus 88. Well, let's plug this into our calculator because I can't do that in my head. You take 180 and you subtract 88. You get 92. So we get 2x equals 92 degrees. So we divide by 2, and we get x equals 46 degrees. And we know that over here, for angle S is x, and x equals 46 degrees. So therefore, 46 degrees is the correct answer for number 13. All right, number 14. What is the sum of the solutions to the given equation? Well, first step, I think, would be simplify it. And so immediately we're going to have to disperse this x and disperse this 4x. So what we're going to get is x squared plus x minus 56, giving us a nice quadratic equation. We're going to set it equal to 4x squared minus 28x. And so what I want to do is set this all equal to 0. So I'm going to move all these to this side because I like my x squared to be positive. It's just easier for me to mentally keep track of. So if I subtract x squared from here, I'm going to get 3x squared. Subtract x from here, 1x. I'm going to get minus 29x. And then I'm going to add the 56 to the end. So this is going to be my nice equation. And so looking at this, I know it's not going to be broken down smoothly to its solution. We're going to have to use the quadratic formula. And so you guys should know this by heart, but it's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and it's all over 2a. And so let's find a. So right here, we know a equals 3. We know b equals negative 29. We know c equals positive 56. So let's plug these into that equation. I'll bring it over here and say x equals negative b, so negative 29 with a negative on it is going to turn it into a positive 29. It's going to be plus or minus the square root, and it's going to be b squared, so negative 29 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 56. It's all going to be over 2a, which is going to be 2 and 3. So simplifying this further, we get x equals 29 plus or minus square root of 29 squared, which is 841 positive, and it's going to be minus 4 times 3, which is going to be 12 times 56. That's going to be 672. And it's all going to be over 2 times 3, which is 6. So to simplify this further, we're going to get x equals 29 plus or minus square root, and then 841 minus 672. We're going to get 169, and it's all going to be over 6. So to move that here, we have x equals 29 plus or minus, and we know the square root of 169. If you do that, take 169, square root it, you're going to get 13. This is all going to be divided by 6. Sweet. And so we need the different solutions for this. And so we know that one of the solutions is going to be adding 13 over 6 to 29 over 6, and the other solution is going to be subtracting it. So let me clear some space for these. All right. So for the first step, we're going to add it. So we're going to x equals, and we're going to do 29, but I want to separate them from the denominator, 29 over x plus 13 over 6. Sorry, I meant 6 right here. So if we do 29 divided by 6 plus 13 over 6, we're going to get 29 plus 13, which is going to be 42 over 6. Yeah. And then I guess if they want us to simplify, you can divide that by 2. And you'll get 21 over 3. And we'll do the same for subtracting 13 over 6. So we'll get x equals 29 over 6 minus 13 over 6. And if you do 29 minus 13, you get 16 over 6. And if we divide that by 2, we get 8 over 3. And these are our two solutions, but they want the sum of the solutions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 21 over 3 we're going to add 8 over 3. We're going to get 29 over 3, and that's going to equal 9.66 or 9.67, and this is going to be our answer for number 14. All right, number 15. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of 5x? All right, well, the solution to the given systems is xy. What is the value of 5x? So we need to figure out what x is. Well, we know what y is. And so when SAT or College Board or whoever writes this puts it this way, trust me, the way they put it here is usually a big hint. And the hint here is y equals 3x. So we should just plug that in for y to find x. They're making it easy. So if we do that, we get 2x plus 3x equals 12. So all of a sudden we get 5x equals 12. And look at that. They actually gave us the answer in the equation. Well, they're asking what is the value of 5x? Well, it says right here that 5x equals 12. So therefore, C is the correct answer for number 15. All right, number 16. A cube has an edge length of 41 inches. What is the volume in cubic inches of the cube? Sweet. So we need to know that we got a cube. And we know that this length is 41 inches, which means this length is 41 inches. That means this length is 41 inches. So normally to find the volume of anything, you need the base times width times height equals the volume of the cube. And the reason I put cube there is because if it's all the same length, it's just 41 times 41 times 41 equals the volume. So 41 cubed equals the volume. So we just need to multiply 41 by 41 3 times. So 41 times 41 times 41, you get 68,921. So answer choice D for number 16. All right, number 17. The given function p models the population of Lowell t years after a census. Which of the following functions best models the population of Lowell m months after the census? Okay, so we're switching t years to m months. So we know when there's 12 months, it should equal 1 year, right? So that checks out for the equation. So when we plug in 12 for m, we want it to be the same value as if we put 1 year for t. So for example, this at 1 year should equal 90,000 times 1.06 to the power of 1, which is just 1.06. And so we want it, so if I put an m there, it would equal 1. And so where can I do that? If I put m here for 12, does it equal 1? No. When I put m here for 12, does it equal 1? No, it still equals 12. All right, so we have this one, where if I put 12 for m, it equals 1, because it should be the same value as above, because it's the same amount of time as 1 year. But we have this divided by 12 right here, so that'll get us the wrong answer. So C's out as well. And so now we have here. So if I plug m equals 12 here, I get 1. I get the same as my original equation. So D is the correct answer. And once again, the theory that I went through was if I put t equals 1, I get this equation. And so if 12m equals 1t, where can I plug in 12m that would get me the same exact equation because the same amount of time passed, 1 year or 12 months. And D is the only equation where I get the same exact answer. So D is the correct answer for 17. All right, number 18. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of y? All right, so we're given two equations and they want us to solve for y. So once again, for these equations, the way they set it up here is a hint. Always a hint. And so one thing you can do here is multiply this side by 3. And the reason you would do that is because you would get 6x here, and you could subtract them and then cancel out the x's and be left with only y, and then you can solve for y. So to show you, you get 6x plus 7y equals 28. And then now we have 2x plus 2y equals 10. But if we multiply this by 3, we end up with 6x plus 7y equals 28 over 2x times 3 would be 6x, 2y times 3 would be 6x, or 6y, sorry about that. And that would equal 30. And we would just subtract. And we lose these, this would turn to 0. We get 7 minus 6, we get y. And we get 28 minus 30, and we get y equals negative 2. And that is how you solve number 18. And you get A for number 18. All right, number 19. The minimum value of x is 12 less than 6 times another number n, which inequality shows the possible values of x. So first we need to figure out which way this sign is facing. So if we know the minimum value of x, well, that is the smallest value of x will equal 12 less than 6 times n. So if it's the minimum, that means x is greater than or equal to, and this would be the minimum of x, or the lowest it would go is this equation. And so now we need to know what the other half is. So immediately looking at that, we can cross off A, we can cross off C. So let's look. Well, we know that it's 12 less than 6 times n. Well, 6 times n would look like that, and it's 12 less, so minus 12. And that's how you would draw it, and that's how you would find out that it's answer choice B, not answer choice D. And so B is the correct answer for number 19. All right, number 20. Dataset A consists of the heights of 75 buildings and has a mean of 32 meters. So let me draw that. So if it's dataset A and it has heights of 75 buildings and a mean of 32 meters. And we know dataset B consists of heights of 50 buildings. Okay, so B is made up of 50 buildings and it has a mean of 62 meters. All right, cool. And now we have dataset C, that is a height of 125 buildings, and it has a mean, of 125 buildings from dataset A and B. Okay, so it's A and B added. What is the mean in meters of dataset C? Well, we know it's going to be the amount of buildings in A and B, and it's going to be divided by the heights. So 125, and that's going to be the mean of C. But how do we find what A and B are? Well, if we know that A divided by 75 equals the mean, 32 meters, because A consists of all the heights. So this is all the heights of A, and this is the amount of buildings. So all the heights divided by the amount of buildings, so all the heights added together divided by the amount of buildings is going to equal the average, which is going to be 32. We can use the same equation for B. So we know all the heights of all 50 buildings of B is going to equal a number. And if you divide that by the amount of buildings there are, it's going to give you the mean, which is 62. And so how do we find what A and B are? Well, if we just multiply both sides by the denominator, so if we multiply this by 75, multiply this by 75, these cancel out and we're stuck with A equals. And so if we do 75 times 32, we're going to get 2400. And if we do the same thing with B, multiply this by 50, the 50s cancel out, and you got to multiply this side by 50. So 62 times 50 is going to make B equal to 3,100. And so if we take all the heights of A and all the heights of B, which over here is C consists of the heights of 125 buildings from A and B, and we divide them by the amount of buildings, which is 125, we're going to get C, which is this equation here, or the mean of C. So if we do 2,400 plus the 3,100, so that's A and B right here, we divide it by the amount of buildings total, well, that's going to be 125, we're going to end up with 44 as the mean of C. And that's going to be the correct answer for 20. All right, number 21. The graph of 9x minus 10y equals 19. It's translated down 4 units on the xy plane. What is the x-coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? So basically what it's asking us is, if we translated this down 4 when y equals 0, what is x? So first off, we need to find the equation, this equation translated down 4. So the first thing is to get this into y equals mx plus b. So we take the equation, we get 9x. We get 9x minus 10y equals 19. I want to move this 9 across, so we get negative 10, and I'm going to move it over here. We're going to get negative 10y equals negative 9x plus 19. And we're going to divide it by negative 10 to get this off this side. So we get y equals positive 9 tenths x minus 19 over 10. And so this is going to be our equation for the first line. And so what we need to do is translate it down 4 units. And so if we do that, the slope will be the same. This m will be the same. So if I draw it out, y equals mx plus b. If you want to translate a line down 4 units, all you need to do is subtract 4 from the b. And that's how you translate the line down 4 units. So if we do that for this one, we can do y equals 9 tenths x, because the m stays the same. And we're going to do minus 19 over 10 minus 40 over 10, because that is 4 over 1 multiplied by 10, so 40 over 10. And what we get is this equation. We get y equals 9 over 10x minus 59 over 10. And what I would like to do is pull it up here. And I think all this being over 10 is a little confusing. What I'd like to do is do y equals 9 over 10 x minus 5.9, because that is 59 over 10, would just be moving the decimal point 1 unit to get it 5.9 over 1. And so this becomes 5.9. And so what is it asking us after that? What is the x-coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? So we found the resulting graph. It's right here. We translated it down 4 units. And so when y equals 0, what is x? Because this would represent the x-intercept. So we need to set 0 for y. So we get 0 equals 9 over 10 x minus 5.9. So we move the 5.9 over, we get positive 5.9 equals 9 over 10. And we just need to divide 5.9 by 9 over 10. And so you can do this 2 ways. You can do 5.9 times 10 divided by 9, or you can just find 9 over 10 and divide it and get it into a decimal and then divide 5.9 by that decimal. Either way works. So if we do 9 divided by 10, we get 0.9, and 5.9 divided by 0.9 is 6.56. So if we divide this by 9 tenths, we get 6.56 equals x, and that is going to be the correct answer for 21. And for you guys who like to keep it into fractions, I'm going to redo it as a fraction. So imagine if we just kept it at this point. And I moved it. Let me clear some space. And I skipped all of that and I kept it as a fraction. Would look a little more like this. You get y equals 9 over 10 x minus 59 over 10. And we would do the same thing as putting 0 here, equals 9 over 10 x minus 59 over 10. We would move this 59 over 10 to the other side, and we get a positive 59 over 10 equals 9 over 10. x. And what you do to divide by fractions is to multiply it by the inverse. So we would have x equals, sorry for switching sides, we get 59 over 10 times 10 over 9, because we're flipping this upside down to divide it. And we get 10s cancel out, and we get x equals positive 59 over 9. Once again, that is the correct answer, and that is equivalent to 6.555 or 6.56. All right, number 22. Two variables, x and y, are related such that for each increase of 1 in the value of x, the value of y increases by a factor of 4. When x equals 0, y equals 200. Which equation represents this relationship? Okay, cool. So what I would first do is just plug in x into these equations and see which ones give me a y of 200, just to simplify it and cross out answer choices. So if I plugged in 0 here, 0 to the power of 200 is 0. So it'd be y equals 4 times 0, which would give you 0 for y. So when x equals 0, y needs to be 200, so I know that a is wrong. And let's do it here. When I plug in 0 for x, we get 4 times 200 to the power of 0, which means it's 4 times 1, which means y would equal 4, not 200. So we know b is wrong. So let's keep moving on. If I plug in 0 here, I get y equals 200 times 0 to the power of 4, which is 0. So I get y equals 200 times 0, which means y would equal 0 when x is 0. So c is wrong. But let's plug it in for d to check. If I put 0 there, we get y equals 200 times 4 to the power of 0, which means that anything to the power of 0 actually equals 1. So we get y equals 200 times 1, which means y equals 200, and that is why answer D is the correct choice for 22. All right, number 23. So we get one solution to the given equation can be written as 1 plus the square root of k, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? All right, so immediately looking at this, I think it's a simplified problem. And so I like to rewrite the equation. So I like to do x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0. And we have to find the solutions for this quadratic equation. And so looking at it, I'm trying to find any multiples of 9 that might add to be negative 2. And the multiples of 9 would be, or negative 9 would be negative 9 and 1. And obviously negative 1 and positive 9, but neither of those add up to negative 2. And then you have maybe 3 times 3. But even then, a negative 3 or positive 3 wouldn't add to be negative 2. And so that means we can't solve it the normal way. So what we need to use is the quadratic equation. So let me erase this. We're going to do the quadratic equation. If we remember what that is, it's negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. It's all going to be over 2a. And so we need to find b, a, c. Well, we know a is going to be 1, so a equals 1. We know b is going to be negative 2, so we know b equals negative 2, and we c is going to be negative 9. So knowing that, we can plug those into the equation. So let's redraw it over here. We have negative b, which is going to be the negative of negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a, when a is 1, and then c, so negative 9. And we're going to put this all over 2a, so 2 times 1. So to simplify this down, we get positive 2, because negative times a negative 2 is going to be a positive 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared, which is positive 4, minus negative 4 times 1, and negative 4 times 9. So that's actually going to be a negative 4 times a negative 9, which is going to create a positive 36. And we'll put that all over 2 times 1, so it's going to be 2. And then if we simplify that further, we get 2 plus or minus the square root of 40 all over 2. And so how can we simplify this further? Well, there's something we can do where we take the square root of 40, and we know that's going to be made up of 4 and 10. And so to redraw, it would draw something like this. It would be the square root of 4 times 10. Well, what we can do is actually take that square root of 4 and move it separately. And so what I mean by that is the square root of 4 times 10 is equal to 2 times the square root of 10, because we took the square root of 4, found out that it was 2, and just moved it to the outside of the square root. So this equation redrawn would actually equal 2 plus or minus 2 and the square root of 10 all over 2. And so what we find is that this can be simplified because you can divide the whole thing by 2. So what you get is 1, 1, and 1. And redrawn, that means x, because this is the x equals negative b from above, x equals, and this is the solution, 1 plus or minus the square root of 10. And so therefore, this right here means that k is equal to 10. Because this is the solution to the equation, and if the solution is 1 plus the square root of k, and once again, k must be 10. And so that's how we get answer choice B for number 23. All right, number 24. The dot plots represent the distributions of values in data sets A and B. So, looking at data set A and B, which of the following statements must be true? All right, let's look at the first one. The median of data set A is equal to the median of data set B. All right, when I see median, I like to think middle, because we have like mean, median, and mode. So median being middle, mode being most, and mean being the average. And that's kind of how I remember what they mean. So we're looking for the middle value in this data set. So immediately the way I like to do this is cross off one from each end and work your way to the center. And we can see that the median of data set A is 13. And let's do it again for data set B. Cross off 10, 16, 11, 15, 12, 14. We find that it is also 13. So we know the medians for data set A is in fact equal to the median of data set B. So Roman numeral 1 is true. And so knowing that 1 is true, we can immediately cross off B and D. So this says 2 is only true, and this says neither 1 or 2 are true, so they're both false. And now, to find the difference between A and C, we need to find out whether Roman numeral 2 is true. So it says the standard deviation of dataset A is equal to the standard deviation of dataset B. And so what standard deviation means is it's a measure of how dispersed the data is in relation to the mean. And we can see that the center, the mean for dataset A is here, and it's the same for dataset B. So it's here. So we're looking for how dispersed the data is from the center. And so a good way to look at this, at least with this graph, is we can see that 1 unit away are 2 values. And we can see it on the opposite side. And now we got to see if for data set A, 1 unit away are 2 values, is it the same for data set B? And so 1 unit away from the center are 2 values. So currently, the standard deviations are the same, but we have to go through every single number like 11 and 14, 15, 16, etc. And so as we continue to do that, we can see for dataset A, 2 units away are 4 values, okay, on either side. And we can see the same for dataset B, that 2 units away are 4 values. And where they differ, it looks like, is, let me get a different color, is at 3 units away for dataset A is 1 value. And for dataset B, 3 units away are 2 values. And this means that the way their data is distributed from their median or the mean to the middle is different, because they're the same for the first two, so to 14 and 15, but they're different once they reach 16 and 10. So therefore, their standard deviations do not equal each other. So 2 is false. And so knowing that, we now know C is wrong and A is the correct answer for 24. All right, number 25. An isosceles right triangle has a perimeter of 94 plus 94 square root of 2 inches. What is the length in inches of one leg of this triangle? Sweet. So whenever I see a question like this, make sure you draw it out. It's a good habit to have. So we know that an isosceles right triangle is actually a special right triangle, and this picture is actually given to you on your page of formulas, and it looks a little bit like this. So you have like two sides that are the same, and you have a hypotenuse that's going to be x square root of 2, and these angles are going to be 45 degrees. And you know this is going to be at the right angle. Sweet. So this is the special right triangle, an isosceles right triangle. And we know that the perimeter is going to be equal to 94 plus 94 square root of 2. And so I'm going to show you two ways to do this. And the first way, so this way, I'm going to show you is the quick way to do it. And that's to take these values here and just plug them into the triangle. And plug them in as the sides and to see if they add up to each other. And so what you're going to do is we're going to plug in 47 for x. We're going to plug in these values for x because x is the same. And then we're going to add them together and see if they give us this equation. So if we do that, if we plug in x for these values, we get 47 plus 47 plus 47 square root of 2. And I know adding these together, I'm going to get 47 plus 47, which is going to be the 94 plus 47 square root of 2. And that is not what I'm looking for. So I know A is wrong. So let's clean this up a little bit and do it again with B. And so if I do that, I get 47 square root of 2 plus 47 square root of 2 plus 47 square root of 2 times square root of 2. So you actually end up with this being 2. So redrawn, you get 47 square root of 2 plus 47 square root of 2 plus 47 times 2. And adding all these together, well, if you add these together, you get 94 square root of 2. And if you do 47 times 2, you get plus 94. And that is actually the perimeter that we're looking for. It's the same as the one given to us in the question. So therefore, B is the correct answer for 25, and that is the fast way to solve it. All right, this is 25, but I'm going to show you a different way to solve the problem. So the first thing you're going to do is use the same information. We know it's x, and x square root of 2. So if you draw that out, you get x plus x of square root of 2 equals the perimeter of the triangle we're trying to find. So we can set it equal to 94 plus 94 square root of 2. And so we can simplify this further and get 2x plus x square root of 2. Let me redraw that so it's a little cleaner. We get 2x plus x square root of 2. And then we can simplify this a little further by taking the x out of this equation. We end up with x times 2 plus square root of 2 equals 94 plus 94 square root of 2. And so what we have to do to find x is take x, set it equal to 94 plus 94 square root of 2 and divide it by 2 plus the square root of 2. And so that is a pretty mathematical, if your brain works a little more like that and you don't like taking shortcuts, now you can just plug this into your calculator. Just do 94 plus 94 square root of 2 over 2 plus square root of 2, and that's going to give you a number that should be equal to 47 square root of 2, because the square root of 2 is a value. I think it's 1.4 something, but you can actually just plug that into your calculator and find a value equal to that. And so you get your answer in decimals But what you would do is just immediately, you would know that it's not A or B because it would be in a decimal form. And you would just calculate what 47 square root of 2 is, what 94 square root of 2 is, and you would find that the answer choice would be B. But this is just a different way of thinking about it that could help you solve this problem and get you the correct answer. All right, number 26. In the given equation, C is a constant. The equation has exactly one solution. What is the value of C? Okay, so when I see a quadratic equation like this, and I see that the equation has exactly one solution, or if you see, it has exactly two real or two imaginary, you should think of the discriminant function. So discriminant, something like that. Discriminant function. So you set this equal to 0. So if we know that it has exactly one solution, it's going to be set equal to 0, and that we know the function is going to be b squared minus 4ac. And this helps us find c in this, because we know a is going to be -9, and then we know b, it's going to be 30. And so knowing these two, we can find c because we know it's going to be set equal to 0 because there's only one solution. So let's plug in the values. So we get 30 squared minus 4 times -9 times c is going to equal 0. And so solving this, we know 30 squared is going to be 900 minus 4 times 9, which is going to be, or -4 times 9, which is going to be a positive 36c equals 0. And so now we know it's going to be 36c equals -900. And so if we just divide this by 36, divide this side by 36, we're left with c equals -900 divided by 36. We're going to get -25 equals the correct answer. So we know it's going to be C for 26. All right, number 27. So in this given system of equations, P is a constant. If the system has no solution, what is the value of P? All right, so whenever I see something like this, remember, it's a hint. This looks like elimination for this system of equations. Nation. And I know this because usually when they stack variables like this, like x and y, over top of each other, they want us to subtract them and then be able to eliminate them. So once again, this is a hint. But what I notice about these is that it's not very clear. We have two y's, we have multiple numbers without values. We need to clean this up a bit. And what I like to do is I like to make it look like what makes sense to me. And so I want these in the y equals mx plus b form. Can't really do that. What I mean is just get it so y equals the rest of the equation, because that helps me stack them and end up doing elimination, and that'll make more sense as I go along. But also what it's saying is, in the given system of equations, the system has no solution. Okay, so when you're doing elimination, to make something have no solution, two things need to occur. X and y need to eliminate, and the remaining is not true. The remaining values aren't true. And so these are the two things that need to occur in order for this to have no solution. And once again, it'll make sense as I go through it, but always remember that for something that has no solution, x and y need to eliminate, and the remaining values can't be true. And so let's take this first equation, let's bring it down, and I want it in the y equals mx plus b form. So I get 3/2 y minus 1/4 x equals 2/3 minus 3/2 y. So what I want to do is get rid of this y. I want to move it over to that side, and I want to move this x over to that side. And so to do that, I need to take this -3/2 and just add it to the other side. So I get, and let's drag that over here, I get 3/2 y plus 3/2 y, and that equals 6/2 y, which equals 3y. And that's how I get 3y on this side equals And then I'm moving a negative 1 over 4x over. So I'm going to add 1 over 4x to the other side, and that's going to give me a positive 1/4 x. And so that's how it's going to be drawn as 1/4 x plus 2/3. And so to isolate this y, I just want to divide the whole thing by 3. And that gets me y equals 1/12, because it's 4 times 3, x, plus 2/9. And so for our top equation written in y equals mx plus b form, you get, or isolated the y, I guess, you get y equals 1 over 12x plus 2/9. And so that's how we get this one. But let's do it again with this one. And so we get, here, let me switch colors. You get 1/2 x plus 3 over 2 equals py plus 9 over 2. And I want to isolate this y. So what I do is I have this 9 over 2. I'm going to subtract it from the other side. So I get 3 over 2 minus 9 over 2. And that gets me negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. Sorry, it's a little scribbled in there. Basically, I get 1/2 x minus 3 equals py. And so I just need to divide this by p. And so I get 1 over 2p x minus 3 over p equals y. And so drawing it up here, I get y equals 1 over 2p x minus 3 over p. And let me clean this up a bit. So hopefully you can remember how I ended up with these two equations. But just to make some room, I'm going to erase this so I can show you the final step to solving this problem. And so to bring it back, I'm going to write it back in blue. And to remind you of what we need to find when eliminating these or subtracting the y's, we need x and y to eliminate, and we need the remaining values. The remaining values aren't true. And these are the two things we need to make it so it has no solution. So let's draw it. Well, we get y equals 1/12 x plus 2 over 9. We are subtracting y equals 1 over 2p x plus 3 over p. So we already have these y's canceling out. So we have these equal 0, but we need these x's to cancel out. So we need them to be, we need the coefficient of x to be the same value. Well, we have 1/12. We need it to equal 1 over 2p. Well, wouldn't it make sense to make it so p equals 6? Because then we'd have 1/12 on both sides. So if p equals 6, well then, wouldn't it be drawn as, let me redraw it. Wouldn't this be, if p equals 6, wouldn't it be 1 over 2 times 6, so 12x, plus, I don't know if you remember, but it was minus 3 over p, but if p equals 6, then it'd be 3 over 6 minus 3 over 6, and we subtracted them, and the y's cancel out. Wouldn't the x's cancel out as well? And that would equal 0. Sweet, so x and y eliminate if p equals 6. But we just need to make sure that the remaining values aren't true. So we need to take 2 over 9 minus 3 over 6. And we need to find common denominators, which I can see as 18. So we need to multiply this side by 3 and this side by 2. And then we get, I actually just realized that we're subtracting a negative. So actually, we're going to add this value to 2/9. Made a mistake earlier. We're going to add this value because we're subtracting a negative 3/6. So it's actually going to be 2/9 plus 3/6, which actually equals, well, I guess it would be 2 times 2 would be 4/18, right? Yep. Plus 3 times 3, 9 for 18, which would get you to 13/18. Yep. So this would equal 13/18. And so we would have 0 plus 13/18, and 0 equals 13/18. And this is not true. And this is what we're talking about when the remaining values are not true. Once we eliminate x and y, the remaining values aren't true. So therefore, the correct answer is 6 for number 27, because it is the value that p can be that gives the system no solution. And for example, if the remaining values were true, it'd be e0 equals 0, but that's not occurring. So the remaining values aren't true. So 6 is the correct answer for 27.